Hi guys, I'm Katie Room from Periapsis Press, and my husband David is over here, tucked away.
Not tucked away. Just put the camera on the wrong spot.
Oh. Here's my box of books. So today we're going to talk about our book that launched today, and maybe after that we'll do some Legos. We'll see. Just real quick. Hi to Patrick in the chat.
I guess I'll scoot over. We usually have the camera further over.
Yeah, go ahead and I'm sorry. Sorry guys. That's my first time streaming. Hi to Isaac, who is in the book. We're excited to talk about it. I will just real quick. Oh, there we go. I'll bring it up.
Can you bring that back up? Sorry, I'm still trying to get the camera right.
Is that better?
Yeah. See, okay. It's on too much of a delay here for me to be able to tell what's going on.
I see. I was gonna pull this up, but I forgot. There we go. Look at that.
Does it show up in the search now?
Yes. Here, I'll show you guys. I'm super excited.
Is the paperback showing up?
Yeah, it just says Kindle here.
It shows for me.
Okay, well that's good.
Like if you just click on that once. No, click on the.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, click on the book.
No,
okay, good.
Yep, they're both.
It shows up. Just how it shows up in the search is a little different, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna share screen. There we go.
William Rankin says, "Happy Publishing Day." Thank you.
There she is. I'm super excited about this. Get that out of there. So it is now available on Kindle and paperback. We have 6 stories this year. Last year we did 5, but it actually came out to roughly about the same length, a little bit longer, I think.
But just a touch.
So they should be very comparable in size. I'm super excited about this, you guys. I've been sitting on these stories and trying to think of ways to talk about it without being like oversaturating my feed and frustrating everybody in every conversation where I'm like, oh, by the way, we happen to have a Christmas book.
You did a good job of not. I think this is just something, like we're doing because it's something that we enjoy doing, and we're not on Twitter to try to make sure the maximum possible number of people see it the most number of times.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we did a good job of not not harassing people about it. Maybe we can do that now that it's published.
I'm obviously part of my my shtick with this Christmas anthology is that each of the authors who have a story in the book have been reviewed previously on Periapsis Press. So I have gone and I've read their work, maybe not in its complete entirety, but I've read one of their books, right? And I liked it. So I can say, if you like one of the stories or all of them, right, you can go and you can check out other things that these authors have done, and I can concretely say that I can see how you can extrapolate in that way. So I'm excited about it. I'm very excited. Let me there they are. Okay. Should I talk a little bit about the stories? Or do you want to talk about?
Why don't you talk about the stories first?
Okay. So 6 stories. Last year, I had sort of the more lighthearted in tone one at the end. This year, I put it at the beginning. That is by Frederick Jiro Heimbach. And did I say it wrong?
I don't know. I don't know how it's supposed to be said, but we just always fail to figure it out how to actually pronounce.
I don't. Yep, pronounce people's
these
names.
things.
I feel awful.
You could just say Fred Heimbach.
Fred. That one is Fear Not. Tongue-in-cheek story about a Christmas miracle. I don't want to give anything away because it's a lot of fun. But about a choir master who runs into a little bit of trouble. I have several people in mind that I'm like, oh, they should read this story because they specifically will think it's funny. But I think everyone will enjoy it. Then that's followed by Protector's Gift by Blake Carpenter. That one I think is reminiscent of his book Deathbringer a bit. That's a little bit darker fantasy with a character who is sort of like an everyday sort of edge of civilization, like old-timey sort of sheriff feel, but runs into a problem when one of the swords of the gods strikes down like lightning and is picked up by a baddie. And a sort of Father Christmas in a sort of Narnia style shows up to give him a needed gift. So that one is more of an action heavy one, sort of like how we had several action heavy ones at the beginning of last year's anthology. And since that one was a dark fantasy, I followed it up with William Jeffrey Rankin's story, which is The Shelter Most High, kind of a spooky Christmas ghost story one. A very strange tale. I think what does he say? From the memoirs of the character Jonathan. I don't remember the character's last name. I would probably butcher it anyway. That one is fun because I always want more of the sort of like Christmas ghost story type stories. You know, there's that line in one of the Christmas songs that talks about telling these ghost stories around Christmas time, and then the only one we actually have that is a regular one that we tell is A Christmas Carol. We'll have more like that, right? So that one's fun. William Jeffrey Rankin points out he's the main character from his upcoming novel, so that will be fun. After Rankin's is Jonathan Shorger's. And that one is Ember Knight. I got all of these in my head. It just takes me a minute to retrieve them. That one features the two main characters from In Darkness cast, that I'm always talking about, right? That the Paladin Knight type character who's paired with a dark sorcerer, his master, his instructor. So having the two of them play off each other in a nice little punching demons sort of in the snow fight that takes place on his fantasy world version of Christmas Eve. That one's fun. And then that's followed by Kalina Radcliffe's story, which is actually a prequel to her story from last year's anthology, but it's standalone. And it's called Let All Mortal Flesh Keep Silence. And that one, like the one from last year's anthology, she has Jack Frost and a couple of other recognizable names fighting off cryptids. So more action and adventure. So that one's fun too. And it goes really well with Ember Knight, I think. The two of them have a very similar tone to them. Very sort of uplifting in the middle of our anthology. And then the last story is by Isaac Anderson. I just recently reviewed his story, The Garden Maze. And his story is called Whiteout. It's a little bit different from the rest of the anthology because the characters are children working together to solve a problem, a sort of mythological problem of giant proportions in the snow and the cold. And I like it quite a bit as well. So I think you guys will enjoy all of them. Patrick says the Muppet Christmas Carol is the superior Christmas Carol. Debatable. I like the Muppet Christmas Carol quite a bit. I think that Scrooge is a good comparable, more serious musical version. And I like that one quite a bit. It's got the song I Hate People, which sometimes I feel in my soul. But I think they're both. I think the Muppet Christmas Carol one is it's inescapably a Muppet. Which is both a pro and a con, in my opinion. All right. Oh, is that the one that I'm talking about? Yes, that's the one. Yeah. Nice. So Patrick just watched it with his daughters, and now they want to read it. So that's awesome. All right, my love. Would you like to?
Why don't you talk about your other books and stuff?
Oh, sure.
First.
These ones?
Yep.
This is my box that finally came that I was so excited about. And I took a picture of myself with the box, and then I haven't had a chance to show you guys what was in it. So this is Paladin Unbound by Jeffrey Spiked. This is our book for the next book club. Still don't have a date for you. It's holiday season, so we're navigating work and family holidays, and of course this project has been taking up all my time. So, but we'll let you know as soon as we do. This one is matte, and when it came, it was dusty. Oh, and it felt so nasty. But I have managed to get it off, and it feels a lot better. So usually I show you guys the interior a little bit. Isaac says the box of legend. Yeah. As far as the matte on this, because there is a light colored cover with quite a bit of detail, you don't really see any of that like scratching in the surface. You can see a little bit right there in the dark spot on the back.
Scratching?
Yeah, that's something I talk about. The matte gets these scratches in it.
Oh yeah.
That with glossy, there's always the problem of like fingerprints, but you can always wipe those off. My biggest issue with the matte, other than the tactile sensation of it, is that those inconsistencies. So this cover looks pretty good. Cream interior looks nice. There's a chapter heading. Yeah. So, and if you guys want to follow along, I'm going to try to be more intentional about keeping up on posting in the Gilded chat that I have set up for discussing the book club books ahead of time, sort of as we read them. So if you are interested in joining that, just shoot me a message on Twitter or something, and I'll add you to the group. I finally grabbed this one. I was sitting on it wondering if I think she has it in hardcover as well, but I decided to get the paperback, The Unexpected Enlightenment of Rachel Griffin. This is one of my favorite series. It's Magic School, and she does a fantastic job.
It's a pretty thick.
Yes, book. It was thicker than I expected.
And it's big. It's
quite tall.
Big too. This one is at least 6x9, right?
Yeah. And it's got interior art as well. It's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Glossy. I'm sure you guys can see it shining. Let me see if I can find that one of those art pieces. And she just has a fantastic world that is it has a lot of Easter eggs, so it's a lot of fun. There's stuff from particularly The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe that I really enjoy. So if you enjoy Harry Potter or Magic School in general, definitely want to grab that one. And of course, John Douglas's new book came in this one as well. That's pretty exciting. The cover has grown on me a lot. When he first revealed it, I was like, I don't know about that. But the more I look at it, the better I like it, I think.
Can I take a look at this one?
Yeah.
I'm surprised he went with matte.
Yeah, it's matte. Yep. And the back cover is quite dark.
I like matte myself, but it seems like when people have an opinion about it, it's like people either slightly prefer matte or they just absolutely hate it.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't put out a book in matte myself. But it's actually what I prefer.
Sure. You do.
Yeah. I think it's more. I think it looks more like what you find in a bookstore.
Sure.
I feel like most bookstore books nowadays are paperbacks are not shiny.
They're not glossy.
Yeah.
But they are.
They're maybe not as matte as
they're
this.
like more like papery matte.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I don't know if we have an example of one because we don't buy brand new paperbacks from.
Well, like I've got this one in my stack.
Yeah.
It's
that's more.
It's hard to tell because it's still got a sort of.
I feel like once this gets handled a bit, it would feel more like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be. Isaac Anderson says, "I prefer scratch and snip." This paper is also pretty white. I think cream has been generally the trend.
What you see, yeah.
Chapter heading, pretty document looking, but I really like the page. That's a nice, breaks.
A really nice touch.
It's that crown shape. I think that is a nice touch.
When I eventually do my book, I want to use a different font for the chapter headings, something that looks a little bit more sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I don't really have too many intra-chapter breaks in my books, but I would like to find some kind of cool symbol to use for them, because I think it just adds a lot, kind of going above and beyond your basic result.
Got a little formatting goof there.
It's fine.
It happens. It is not going to intervene with the enjoyment of the story at all. So yeah, I already read that. I reviewed it in the second issue of Anvil, so I really enjoyed that. I come from an epic fantasy high school where I voraciously consumed everything that I could get my hands on, so I was very satisfied with that. And yes, William Jeffrey Rankin says that's a big one. It is a little chunk.
It's 600 pages, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. 640, 650. Yep. I think the only one that I have that's bigger is the Mummy of Monte Cristo, which is see if I can make everything fall down. $6.95. So that's the other chunk that I have. In true epic fantasy style, it is nice and beefy. And you guys saw those chapter headings, right? There's not a lot of that's empty space for those. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm always excited to get books. I grew up, and it was probably a freshman in high school or later before I realized the reason that I didn't get books as gifts from my mom. She knew that I loved to read, because I'd always loved to read, and she had always encouraged that. She took us to the library all the time, but we didn't own a lot of books. She didn't usually give them to us as presents. And I finally asked her, and she said, well, after you read it, it just sits on the shelf. So since then,
And
since then, she has come to realize that that's part of the fun of it. I like that. And I get more books. I can look forward to books for things like Christmas and birthdays, but
why do you buy action figures? They just sit on the shelf.
There's a lot of things in my life that sit on a shelf. I think I said to Patrick, I need to make sure I keep up, or maybe it was somebody else, keep up on my reading and reviewing, or people will begin to think that buying books is my real hobby.
At this point, I don't care. It's you know,
Mhm.
it's one of those things where it's like I'm at a point in my life where I'm not going to feel guilty about doing the things that
Yeah.
I want. And if what I want to do is like buy a whole bunch of books and then like maybe read one or two of them, I'm going to do it and just
Yeah.
not feel guilty about it. I personally don't buy a lot of books because I don't read a lot of them. But I like a lot of my thinking about buying books is now not just like, am I going to use this, but like, is this going to be something that my kids might want to read
Yeah.
someday? So there's that too,
Mhm.
you know.
Patrick says, yes, and hunters mount deer antlers and tire bears and moose heads.
Mhm.
Behold my conquests. Books, better than drugs. Maybe not as cheap as drugs, though. All right. That was all that I had lined up to
All right.
talk about.
Should we talk about the publishing process?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked about this before, kind of how we go about doing things, but we thought some people on Twitter asked about a live stream about how I do some different things. And we thought now might be kind of a good time to do it because it's fresh in our heads. We have the files kind of all there. I'm not going to show every last thing, but thought I would kind of go through some of the parts of the publishing process. And, you know, different people do different things. I will say that this works really well for us.
Yeah.
So I built a lot of these tools last year, and I would say we definitely spent a lot less time building tools this year. It was more just actually fighting with some of the formatting and some of the new issues that were in these stories that weren't in last year's. But yeah, it went really well, and I think it turned out. One cool thing about it, which I'll get into, is that something I used to see a lot on Twitter is people complaining about, you know, when it's time to publish the paperback, they're always like going back and forth, fighting with the cover
Guideline.
the cover like PDF with the trying to fit everything within the margins and the bleeds and stuff. And this year we did not even order a proof. We just uploaded it, hit publish, and it took it. So I feel really good about that.
Yeah. So last year we did get the proof, and everything was exactly the way we expected.
Yeah, and the way we wanted.
Yeah.
And the proof, yeah, they had no problem sending us a proof. But then when we went to publish, it rejected it because the title text didn't fit within the spine margins. So we had to make that smaller.
But we knew that because of your
we knew that the text was outside of the lines, but we just kind of didn't care because it was so thin. So yeah,
we made the decision because we didn't think that it was a problem. But then when we hit publish on it, Amazon sent it back and was like, you're outside the lines. Well, we knew that. Yeah. So we just fixed it, and then that was it. Yeah. This year we didn't. We just did it within the lines. realizing that that was a make or break it thing for them.
All right, so I'm gonna just
Patrick says text spine didn't fit, time to add more stories.
Yeah, I'm gonna just share my whole desktop here.
Okay, you want me to add you in, or do you want me to?
Yeah, you can. Well, I'll share my desktop first. And
Okay.
okay.
Guys are gonna get a behind the scenes look here.
We'll do the entire screen. I don't think it will hurt to show any of this stuff. All right, I should be sharing, so you
can. You want to add this to the stage?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, and you can bring it up and then just have us alongside.
Small or bigger?
No, that looks
just
good.
Like that. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so the way that we do our publishing is we use the software that I wrote, and this is the same software that I use for publishing my books, and I believe it was like back in 2019 I started working on this paperback functionality for it, which I never finished. I have yet to publish any of my books in physical, but we've used twice now for our Christmas anthology. But I just want to talk a little bit about the software in general for people who don't know about it. It's custom software that I wrote. I'm not going to show any of the code of that because I have it like published under my real name. But basically the way it works is that you keep all of your source files for your project in text form in these .sec files. It's a special file format that I made that is basically just text with markdown, and then there's like these little headings that describe different things. There's special tags, and you can see here like this. So this is the source file for this year's anthology, and there's a lot of extra like tags and stuff in here, but that's kind of just because it's the beginning of the book with some special formatting. For the most part, when you're looking at the text of the book, it's not really too cluttered up with special tags because it's just using markdown. You can see italics, or italics are indicated with stars. There isn't any really like other fancy things that have to be done. And you can interrupt me with people's questions because I can't see. So like each section of the book just starts with this little header, and then there's a few tags to configure things and do special formatting. A lot of this kind of stuff wouldn't be necessary for a single author book. It's more just for an anthology where you have a separate title per chapter. So the way my software works is it's just a program that you run. There's no graphical user interface at all. You just run it on the project, which is basically all of the files in that directory. So like this is our Periapsis Press project that has a master and then one file for last year's anthology and one file for this year's. And when you run it, it generates a few things. So it generates a web page, and then you can also generate an EPUB, which is the format for ebook. And then you can generate what is called a LaTeX source document. And then we use LaTeX on that source document to compile into a PDF for printing. So I'll show you what each of those things look like. So the website looks like this. So here's our Periapsis Press projects, and you can see there's some organization to like the different things. Here's the Christmas anthology. You can see it's aware of what cover it has, and you could just read it like this. Some of the formatting is a little bit goofy. Again, this would look a little bit better as a single author story. And then just for another example of like what this sort of web page view is used for. So here's my project, which I use for not just writing my books, but for all of the like encyclopedia and like work log and all of that stuff. So like you can see there's a lot of different articles, there's characters, events, lore, spacecraft, and then here under stories is all of my books and stories. You can see a lot of hidden stuff there that is never going to see the light of day, along with books that I've published. So like here's Uriel's Revenge, and there's extra features here that, you know, we're not using for the Periapsis Press, like side notes. You know, there's special features for world building, things like that, but that doesn't come into publishing. That's all kind of on the planning side. So
now, when you say web page,
yep,
is that accessible?
Nope. So for people who don't know how websites work, you can have like websites that are sort of available and published on the internet where anybody can access them. You can also have like what is called like a local website. And in this case, it's what's called a static website, where there isn't any server that you're interacting with. It just, when you run this program, it generates all of the web pages. And then that's just what you're working with. But there is a little bit of JavaScript. So like there's like a search bar, so you can like search for articles and find stuff like that. And then just, you know, when you rerun the program, it regenerates everything. So you don't have to have a server that's like interacting with a database or anything like that. Okay, so that's the web page side. So when we actually run it, we get a few outputs. So we get the EPUB, and that is basically what we upload to Amazon. And this generates with we're gonna add this anyway, and we're gonna remove this. So that's the old version. This has the cover. This has the cover included, although when you upload to Amazon, it overwrites it with a new cover whatever cover image you upload. But you can see the EPUB contains stuff like the table of contents and you know, has organization and everything, so you can navigate around in it. And that is automatically generated from the formatting here, right? So you define the book, and then each chapter is delimited by markdown headings. So those automatically become the sections that go into the table of contents. And there's a special case for like the title page section. So that shows up here. There's like the title page. That's like a special section. So that's the EPUB. And that basically gets uploaded. In the past, you used to have to run software to convert this to Amazon's Mobi Kindle format, or you could just upload an EPUB. I always would convert it to Mobi and then like run Amazon's checker on it locally. They did away with that, so you just can upload the EPUB directly now. So there's that. The other part of it is the print formatting, and this is where stuff gets a lot more complicated, and this is why I haven't done that for my books yet. So when you do, so what happens here is you run my software and it generates this tech file for LaTeX, and the tech file is another kind of computer source looking document. I have like a template that my software kind of fills in with a lot of things. And you can see in the original source, there's some config that's specific to the LaTeX version, where you can include configuration for the or override defaults as far as what the trim sizes are and margins and things like that. And then there's some special tags to provide special data for LaTeX. So it generates this LaTeX file. And then what you have to do is you have to run this program called PDF LaTeX, and you have to run it twice, because the first time through it kind of gathers information, and then the second time through it generates the table of contents with the page numbers and everything.
William Jeffrey Rankin asks, which LaTeX distro did you go with?
Yeah, so I use I believe it's I can never remember the name of it because I install it once a year. So it's whatever like the default. The one I use this year is like whatever the default one is for Mac. I think it's called Mac Tech. I forget what the version I used on Linux is, but it's basically the same thing. It uses Tech Live as an updater. Yeah, Tech Live. Yep. And in the past, when I installed it on Linux, I installed the minimal version that didn't have any packages installed, so I'd have to like explicitly install all the packages that I would use. Typically, I like to run stuff like that. For this year, I installed the kind of the default installer for Mac, and it came with everything already installed, but it basically works the same. So yeah, so you take this document, you execute this PDF LaTeX command on it twice, and then you get the PDF, which looks like this. And LaTeX does a lot of things for you. So one nice thing that it does is it can make a table of contents. Mm-hmm. It understands chapters, and it can do nice chapter formatting. It handles page numbers and proper sides of the page, handling margins on the correct side of the page, and it also it's also able to automatically hyphenate words across lines and adjust formatting so that you don't get a lot of widows and orphans. It's kind of funny because as I said that, I see an orphan. You can't always deal with these things perfectly. Like historically, how you would do it is you would do a lot of like manual work to try to get rid of those, or try to minimize them. But LaTeX can do a lot of that. Automatic. Actually, sorry, this isn't an orphan. Widows and orphans would be like at the very beginning and end of a page, not the end of a paragraph. So like you wouldn't want to like have one word like this that would be at the start of a page, right? Or something like that at the end of a page. Like the first line of a new paragraph at the end of a page. So there's all these typesetting rules that LaTeX is trying to help you, tries to help you do right. Yeah. One of the things I don't like about LaTeX is it's kind of opaque. So what's nice is you make your LaTeX document, you push a button, you get a PDF. Mm-hmm. And probably across distributions, across different computers, and it's all free software, you're likely to get something very similar. What I don't like about it is it's very opaque. So there's a lot of random configuration, different places that's kind of hidden from you.
Oh, like the table of contents.
Yeah. And then if you want to override it to do something different, you have to start doing a lot of stuff, and it's very hard sometimes to try to like tweak one thing. Mm-hmm. If you're like, oh, I like how this looks, but like, what is this distance that's being used? Like, it's very hard to discover those things sometimes.
Sure.
But yeah, it definitely does a lot for you. Some things that it doesn't do for you that are part of my software is like you have to use special characters for opening and closing double quotes and single quotes. So my software will automatically figure those out. And my software, I have a custom parser for the subset of Markdown that I use that converts that to LaTeX. So I don't use like a standard Markdown to LaTeX converter because I kind of wanted more control over that. But the end result is it's pretty cool. Because what you get is you basically there's one source document for everything. And this is like an example script that you would run, and basically you'd get the Kindle version, and you'd get the PDF version
from the same source.
Yeah, so like if you find a typo, you only have to fix the typo in one place, and it's fixed in both.
Yeah.
So that comes at the cost of having a little bit of extra formatting, tags cluttering up things, but for the most part, like you can actually just read the story in this. It's very easy to read and edit, and then export.
And really, the only time that we had a formatting thing that was about having two versions that actually interfered with something was last year in the acknowledgement section, because I had italics inside parentheses.
Yeah. And I believe that actually was goofing. So I am using a existing library to convert Markdown to HTML for the ebook. And I believe that was what was goofing up with the italics inside parentheses. I believe. I don't believe it was my. Yeah, it's not my converter, because I'm using the italics here. So it was something to do with somebody else's code that goofed up there. And William Rankin says it looks beautiful. We got some nice feedback from William Rankin about the last year's book, and we used a lot of his advice to tweak the formatting of this year's book, and I think it looks a lot better. So we tweaked the title page to be kind of formatted like the chapter page. I tried for ages to figure out what these dimensions were, and I couldn't. I ended up just using the same macro or whatever it's called that's invoked by the chapter headings for the title page. It was so obvious once I figured out how to do it. And we also changed the formatting of the table of contents.
Oh, that was
this was tricky, but it was good to go through the process of figuring out how to do that.
Yeah. Well, and that was difficult because of all that like hidden assumptions that LaTeX was making.
Yep.
Like in last year's, the titles were in bold.
Yep.
The authors were in italics, but they were also a little bit smaller.
Yeah, that was something that was stumped me a little bit. Is the authors were a little bit smaller than the main title, but we got that.
But we figured it out.
Yep. And then another little change that we made is we changed the headers for the top of the page to be this small cap style instead of bold, and I think that looks really nice.
Yeah.
I
feel your pain.
Yep. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, I would say table of contents both years is kind of a tricky thing. One thing that you end up having to deal with is like if you have a long subtitle and you have to like wrap it or like adjust formatting, or there's a lot of situations you can get into where titles don't fit nicely into the table of contents and you have to apply custom formatting, and that's some of what the tags cluttering the beginning of chapters up that you see here is like, just dealing with those special cases for the table of contents. But the nice thing is that you don't, it's kind of like what you would get in Word or something, where you don't have to figure out the page numbers or anything for the table of contents. It just does that. You just have to run LaTeX twice because it does it in 2 passes. All right, and then I thought I would just talk a little bit about the cover.
Oh, we also got the one of the major formatting things we did was move songs and
move the verses over.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was something that we were kind of dinging around with a little bit, and then I realized that LaTeX has a special, it's called an environment. Like, I don't understand the all the terms for LaTeX because I don't like it, and I don't want to actually learn it.
So mad.
So there's like a special environment for quotes that basically just automatically did a lot of what we wanted it to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just bring that up, but not all of it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so like why is it? There we go. Yeah, so one of the, you want to like indent these and set them off.
Mm-hmm.
But then I thought initially when I discovered the quote environment, I thought it did the unindent, but it didn't. So you had to add that in. Something that I think really sets apart like correct paperback, like print formatting from not, is when you have like a section break like this, or like the start of a chapter, not having the paragraph have that initial indent. But then there's other places where you have to deal with that, like when you have these indented things like songs as well. And it looks goofy if you don't. Yeah, it looks really goofy if you don't. It's one of those things where you don't necessarily know the rules, but when you start looking at something, if you're not following them, it looks goofy. Yeah. All right. So yeah. So to just talk about, should I talk about the cover a little bit?
Let's talk about the cover.
Anybody have any other questions about the stuff before I go on to
Not
the cover?
so far.
Okay. So
just let me know, you guys.
Yeah, sometimes talk about how I do art. So I'm just gonna real quickly show the script that I generate the village with, or the Christmas village, because this is cool. So the cover is generated by this Python code. It's not AI, right? So some people, kind of in AI mode right now. This is all custom code that generates a Blender scene. And it doesn't just generate the Blender scene, it actually generates all the 3D geometry. And it's kind of funny. This is how quick it runs. So I'll just run it here. So it's going to run and it's going to open up Blender. It's not really loading any pre-existing models or anything like that. It actually built everything. Here's the village. And we can go into the camera. Here's
where the cover looks like.
Right. So if I just turn the number of samples up and let it go, you can kind of see what the cover would look like here. There's a couple of additional things that I add manually, like some compositing steps, but this is basically it. So we render that, we have the cover image, and then I have a script that makes the cover. So this is actually modified from last year. I had a script to make the cover for last year, and I wanted to preserve a lot of the same formatting. So I basically just added logic for this year versus last year in. So I just have the constant at the beginning. Year is year 2023 or 2022. So here's the 2022 case. You can see the stuff for last year, loading the render, some spine offsets and things, and then the blurb on the back. And then here's this year's. We were experimenting with a couple of different layouts here. So there's some commented out stuff that's run. And then, basically we're specifying a whole bunch of fonts. And then the way I do this is I generate the ebook cover with the text layers. And then I generate the print cover. And the way this works, I'm not going to actually run this right now, but I'll show you what it outputs. Is we use the same image for both the ebook and the print covers. So here's the ebook cover. Here's the print cover. And the way this works is, we're using this rendered image. This half of it goes on here. This half of it, it's the whole thing ends up being on the print cover. And with the overlay, it looks like this. So you can see I have logic in the script that understands the Kindle bleed sizes. So I lay everything out, and basically I'm setting up the image for the print cover like this, and then for the ebook cover, I'm chopping it off by the bleed size.
Mm-hmm.
So the ebook cover is actually going to be kind of this subset of it, right? And then I render the text, composite everything together. I actually calculate a lot of I calculate the dimensions using the page count that we get from the PDF, so we know exactly what size everything is going to be. Amazon gives you this formula given the page count of like how wide everything should be. So I do those calculations automatically. Yeah, and then it's put together a little bit different for each. I'm gonna actually just open this up so I can show you what the layers look like. So basically, when you make a book cover, you end up kind of compositing a bunch of layers together. So for the ebook, right? So these are the different layers that are numbered. So the background layer is this cutout chunk of the rendered image. Then we overlay a sort of a vignette on it, so the corners get a little bit darker. And then you have like the text layers with a black glow around them. And then like all of these are composited together to make the final image. And for the print cover, it's very similar, except our base layer is basically the entire rendered image. Our vignette goes across it into those corners instead of being on the cover, so we don't have any weird discontinuities around the spine.
Mm-hmm.
I have a sort of grouped layer for how that text gets overlaid here. And then there's the blurb. And I came up with kind of a custom solution for rendering text so that the text is rendered with proper kerning and spacing and everything. So, you don't have any like goofy looking typesetting in the result. Yeah, and then this program does a couple other things. So it puts you can run it with a mode that leaves the overlay on kind of for debugging, so you can see, and this ends up looking identical to the previewer that Amazon shows. So like no surprises here.
It was really funny. David had been pulling them up. We would look over the files, and then we would change something, we would re-render, look at things for both the cover and for the latex and the ebook documents. And then when we went to upload it to Amazon, they insist that you preview the document, and it took forever to load. It was like, what are they even doing?
Yeah, because all of this stuff runs like the EPUB and web and LaTeX exporter runs in like a second. Right?
It's so fast.
It's really fast. The image stuff is a little bit slower just because I'm saving intermediate steps to disk, and disk IO is a little bit slower. But yeah, so this program does a couple other things. You can optionally run it so you get this preview overlay, and then it also creates a PDF document that has the print cover in it. So this is what Amazon wants, is they want a PDF. And the way I generate this PDF is with a special Python package that can create a PDF, and it just inserts the raw PNG data into it, so it's not converted or compressed or anything. So this basically, whatever we generate in this print PNG is basically the exact data that goes into that PDF, and then the margins are set up properly. So the cover generator, it has an understanding of what the margins are and the conversion between the conversion from inches to pixels and whatever. So you can run it at different DPIs. If you want to run it at a lower DPI just for speed of iteration, you can do that. The other thing that it does is we generate this perspective cover. This is actually not done with Blender. This is just done with, I believe, with OpenCV with some different like perspective transformations. And then we generate this cover composite image that takes the cover image from the ebook, darkens it, sticks the composite image, and then sticks the relevant part of the blurb on, so that's ready to go. Mm-hmm. And then just some other kind of quality of life things. We generate both a PNG and JPEG version of the ebook, so cover, because Amazon will not take a PNG for the cover image. It will only take a JPEG or TIFF.
Okay.
So we upload a JPEG, and this is, I mean, it's high quality and it is very large. It's like 3150 by 4800. So you don't really have to worry too much about JPEG compression here. So yeah, and the nice thing about this is, and you saw this last night, is like when you run this, you run these tools, you put all of this stuff in this directory, and then you go to publish, and it's just all the files that you need to publish are right there, ready to go. I think I might have even named them with names that some of the things might be expecting, so you can get stuff in there quickly.
Yeah, hitting publish on Amazon was so fast.
Yeah.
It was like, David was even like, should we wait till tomorrow?
Yeah,
you just feel like, wait, this should take longer. This should feel more difficult. This final hurdle.
Yeah, and you can double check things in the previewer and everything, but like usually there's no surprises there if you've looked it over. Yeah, so we didn't even order proof this year. I think we're very confident that the paperback is going to come out the way we expect. We were able to double check and compare it with how last year's looked in the previewer, so we know that the margins are correct and everything. But yeah, so that's the sort of software behind our publishing process. I mean, the great thing about this is, tomorrow one of our authors says, hey, you spelled my name wrong. It is not a huge job to go in and fix that, push a button, regenerate everything, upload a revised ebook, a revised ebook cover, a revised print PDF, a revised print cover, all of that you basically just get for free as soon as everything is set up.
So yeah. I guess if it's completely broken and you get a paperback, let us know. Because author copies don't come for like 6 weeks.
Yep.
William Jeffrey Rankin says, nice workflow.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been fun putting that together, and I'm looking forward to someday using it for my own stuff.
Isaac Anderson asked if the chapter breaks in Whiteout caused unwanted headaches.
The chapter breaks were not really too big of a deal. So the way you handle those is you just add there's like a special non-breaking space character that you put in, and I have my LaTeX parser will convert that into the right stuff for LaTeX, and both the ebook and exporter and LaTeX will automatically handle the unindented paragraph at the start of those sections or like sub chapters. So that's not really something that's too tricky to.
Last year it was William Jeffrey Rankin who did that.
Yep.
So
Yep.
No, it wasn't a huge like it wasn't like a big new thing that we had to manage.
Mm.
Let's see. Patrick had asked earlier what goes into publishing that isn't known by us plebs.
Mm-hmm.
Dartboards and author names. I mean, other than using vectors to make a good cover. Is there anything that comes to mind there?
Yeah, I mean, just that I think, and we don't have it perfect yet, but I would just say that in my opinion, doing a proper paperback takes some work because it isn't just like with ebooks. I would say I think people should worry less about formatting, because I think one of the nice things about an ebook is that when you read it in your e-reader, you can control the formatting, like the font size and everything. And you're not, when you're reading an ebook, you're not expecting it to look like a print book. So whatever's in there just doesn't matter as much.
Right.
But I think doing a print book properly is kind of tricky. Because in my opinion, if you're going to do it, it should look professional. It should look like a real book.
Yeah, there's a lot of conventions that readers unconsciously expect, like that unindented first line. People who read a lot recognize that as being something that when it's wrong, it just doesn't feel quite right. Whether they can identify that specifically or not. And there's other things too. And a lot of it is stuff that they wouldn't necessarily be able to say, well, it's this, and this element, unless they were somebody who was more hands-on with books in general and the formatting of books. But they would say something vague like, well, it just didn't feel professional, or it looked like a Word document or something,
I mean, nobody's perfect. I mean,
right,
there's things that we got wrong, and we're going to discover that we got wrong.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about having your own, like having control of the process, is that you can fix those things or not. It's up to you. You're not beholden to somebody else. You're not, something that I would worry about. I'm absolutely not, like, I don't have any particular person in mind, but it's like, if you could get published with a small press and they could just do kind of a lousy job of print formatting your book and it would look really unprofessional. It's like, well, that's your book, I guess. That's what you have to, give out or whatever. So.
Yeah. But it's, the other thing is that as more readers become accustomed to reading indie, those variations in formatting conventions become less important because people become more accustomed to adapting to those differences. Whereas like with TradPub, everything looks the same, right?
Yeah. So, and to be honest, when I say I think you should be careful about with your formatting, that's kind of just my opinion. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people care.
Right.
Like, just from, again, like, not saying it's bad or whatever, but like a lot of the print books that you've gotten, I open them up and it's like, oh yeah, this is breaking all of these formatting rules,
Mhm.
and people don't care. They would like to have a book, but just a physical book. But I think it's kind of one of those things. It's like if you're making this physical thing, you should try to get it right. Even if you don't actually get everything perfect, I think you should try.
Well, and it's fun to try and make it look the way that you want it.
Mm-hmm.
To look at last year's book and go, oh, we fixed that so that it looks the way that I want it to look,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is kind of the point of
and there's a few things where there isn't necessarily one right way to do it. So then you get to choose. That's kind of fun. We looked at a lot of different books for how we did the formatting, and there was a few instances where we kind of had to make our own choices about how to do things.
Yep. Oh, and hidden formatting things like the italics. That was fun. We looked through tons and tons of books for examples of whether or not to italicize punctuation that comes after italicized words.
Yeah. And we found inconsistencies in published books too. So it's not like they're perfect either, but having some.
But we wanted to have a standard, that we, for our own. Are people really going to notice if the comma was italicized? Maybe not, but we know that we did it the way that we wanted to do it for each instance.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we feel like we can say that we looked at books that were published in a sort of like rigorous format that had the same sort of standard. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it feels good to go through it.
One of the things that I think I like particularly about this book, formatting wise, is the small caps headers, and that I like how that looks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
William Jeffrey Rankin says, "Thanks for putting so much work into the production and for including my story." Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for your feedback about the formatting.
Yeah.
I believe we did everything that you suggested, except we decided not to change the inner margin.
Mm-hmm.
I think you suggested increasing that a little bit, and we just looked at it and we compared with a lot of books, and we felt like it was pretty good the way it was. So we didn't change that.
Yep. I think that's the only thing.
All right. Well, should we call it here?
Yeah. Did you want to build Lego? It's already 11:30.
I think we should do that some other time.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys are watching afterwards and we're not live anymore, feel free to ask in the comments if you have any questions about the process. We'll be happy to talk about it again sometime. And we encourage you to check out the book and last year's book, and then everybody who contributed to them. You can find my reviews of each of their own works, their novel length or short story, or not short story, a novella, on my website, periapsispress.com.
All right.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.